Hoffman, you often remember these different September 11ths. Talk about their significance and understanding this 10th anniversary of another September 11th, of course, the one that the world does know about, September 11th, 2001, when 3,000 people were killed in an instant in New York and in Washington in the September 11th attacks.
Yes, I have several thoughts about this. The first is that we have September 11th happening every day, everywhere. In other words, there are constantly acts of terror against the people, against the innocent people. And we have to understand that we need to get out of the September 11th sort of syndrome. I'm using this as a metaphor, right? It turns out that that day is very significant because it brings together these two events in Chile and the United States, which are similar, the Tuesdays, the bombs from the air, the terror, et cetera. But as Aristide just pointed out, and as Helen Mack pointed out, and as Arun Gandhi pointed out, there are other September 11ths as well. So that's the first thing I would say is let's remember that. A second issue has to do with something that comes out of Chile is, and it's something good that comes out of the terrible tragedy we had, is that eventually we arrested, in fact, the British government at the petition of the Spanish authorities arrested General Pinochet in London in 1998 for crimes against humanity and torture. And it set an incredible precedent, which is that former heads of state, and in fact, heads of state, can be judged anywhere in the world where humanity exists, in other words, everywhere, for crimes against humanity. It's not crimes against the Chilean people. When Pinochet ordered torture, he was torturing one person, he was torturing the whole world. And those crimes do not prescribe. The reason I'm mentioning this at this moment is because a few days ago on ABC, Lawrence Wilkerson, the chief of staff of Colin Powell, said that one of the things that Cheney, Richard Cheney, Dick Cheney, was afraid of was of being Pinocheted. In other words, being made Pinochet. Now, I had never heard the word Pinochet, which is a dread word for me, you know, a man who's responsible for so much death and suffering and destruction in my country, including my own life, and which would have been really exploded by him, that this man should not only become a noun like saying, we want a Pinochet, which people say when they say basically they want law and order and destroying the trade unions and breaking the Social Security network and privatizing the Social Security when they say that. But I'd never heard it made into a verb. In other words, to Pinochet somebody. Now, what to Pinochet somebody is not to do a coup now. To Pinochet somebody, in the case of Dick Cheney, is to be put on trial for crimes against humanity, for war crimes, which, of course, both Cheney and Bush should be. I doubt that they will be. But he certainly should worry about going to Spain or going to France or going to England, because he might end up in jail or in the possibility that should happen to him. So he obviously is trying to not be Pinocheted. And I like the fact that Cheney is now scared of Pinochet, of the ghost of Pinochet, having brought in a world where Pinochet would be proud. Pinochet was very, very happy. You know, 2001, he said, that proves how right we were, you know. So that was one thing I just wanted to comment on. And the last thing has to do with Gandhi. You know, I gave the Mandela lecture last year in South Africa and met up with the great hero and the great icon of our times, you know, Nelson Mandela. And it was wonderful to see how peaceful he was, even at 92 years old then, and how, though there was a military strategy on the part of the ANC, it was basically a nonviolent resistance which managed to topple the apartheid regime, which one never would have thought possible. And to have a transition, which was a very complicated transition to democracy of that country. I find it very interesting to see how, in 1906, on September 11th again, there's this shining example of Gandhi, who decides to question what are pre-apartheid discriminatory practices. In other words, if you look at what was being applied to the Indian population, the migrant Indian population, right, in South Africa, it was basically a rehearsal for the apartheid regime and laws that were going to be put into place, where Nelson Mandela and Oliver Tambo and all the rest of the ANC were going to then confront that in the sense of saying, the fundamental resistance, and I think Arun Gandhi says it well, but I would add to that, the fundamental resistance, the real weapon of resistance are the bodies and the consciousness of human beings day after day. Those are the ones. Now, you pay a big price for that.
It looks like we just lost Ariel Dorfman, the best-selling author, playwright, poet, and activist who teaches at Duke University. We were speaking to him in a studio there in North Carolina. And as we attempt to bring him back, Ben Jealous has been caught in rain, the president of the NAACP, as he tried to head to the Washington studios.